It didn't make you feel like they approved of what you were doing?
No.
It didn't make you feel like you're emboldened now to go out there and act on their behalf?
No.
Let's play the video here, please.
What is up, everyone? Please take a second to hit that like button. The more likes that we get in a short period of time, the more people the algorithm will bring into the chat to come hang out with us and see what's going on. So please hit the like button. Let me know how you're doing. I don't know what was just going on. People were saying it was cutting out, so I restarted the feed. They just had pew-pews on the screen, so I had to give it a second.
You are crossing on the west side of Sheridan Road. You are crossing south across 60th Street here, heading across the police line, which had barricaded across 60th and Sheridan. Fair?
Yes.
You understood at this moment that you are now entering a crowd of whatever you want to call them, protesters, demonstrators. Your attorneys called them rioters or looters or whatever. That's who you're going to now be part of. You're going to be in that crowd, right?
I was walking through. I announced myself as friendly and that I was there to help them.
Because you had to do that to warn these people that, hey, I'm on your side, right?
I told them that I was friendly.
Because if you didn't say that, you were worried they would see you as hostile, correct?
Can you re-ask your question?
Sure.
I'm trying to
Absolutely.
understand.
If you're going to go up to Dominic Black or Ryan Balch, you don't need to tell them you're friendly because they know that you're friends, right? We don't tell this to our friends.
Yeah.
We say friendly to people that aren't our friends, people that might be hostile to us, right?
Yeah, I said it to them because they were throwing rocks at me, and when I told them I was friendly, they stopped throwing rocks at us.
And to be accurate, they were throwing at the Bearcats, not at you.
Yeah.
One of them hit one of the armored vehicles and bounced off towards you and Mr. Balch, right?
Yeah.
It didn't do any damage to that armored vehicle, did it?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, can you imagine trying to harm an armored vehicle with a rock? That's pretty hard to do, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't, no one was throwing rocks at you to that but you were kind of in the ricochet line of fire. It's fair to say?
Yeah.
So you wanted to let these people know that, hey, I might look like I'm on the other side, but I'm really friendly. Fair?
I wasn't on any side, but...
I didn't say that. I said that you might appear to them. I mean, that was what you were worried about, right? When you said friendly? And I notice you looking over at your attorney a lot. Can you... I'm trying to ask you. When you are doing this...
He's looking directly at Mr. Binger, and I'm behind him. He accused Mr. Rittenhouse of looking at his attorney. Does he want him to look at the ceiling?
I'll continue, Your Honor. You, at this very moment, announced yourself as friendly because you were worried that the people on the other side of that street would see you as hostile. Fair?
I can't tell you how I think they would see me, but I just told them I was friendly.
And I want to make sure you understand my question, because I was asking you what you thought when you said this. You said you announced yourself as friendly because you thought to yourself at that very moment, I'm walking into a group that is hostile to me. Isn't that true?
It looked hostile. They were throwing rocks at the squad car, not the squad cars, the armored police cars.
And you felt it was necessary to tell them friendly, 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 so that they wouldn't do anything to you. Fair?
Yes.
Let's continue the video. There's a person that comes up to you carrying a skateboard. Do you see that?
I do.
And he's got some fire extinguishers slung over his shoulder?
Yes.
And he says something to you about something putting out fires, and you respond, they know. Did I understand what you said correctly there? They know?
That's what I just heard, but I don't remember that interaction very well, other than helping the
And
guy
you respond,
after with the
they
shoulder.
know. And that's going to come up in a second here, but when you're talking to this individual about the fire extinguishers, do you remember anything about that conversation?
It's hard to recall, but I think it was about fires, that they were putting out fires.
Okay. And when you said they know, who's they?
I don't recall.
Do you have any idea what you were talking about?
I don't.
It seems to me, Mr. Rittenhouse, that this person is suggesting he's going to go put out some fires, and you're sort of assuring him that you don't need to, it's okay. Would that be a fair interpretation or no?
No.
Okay. But you don't remember what was going on?
I don't remember the conversation, what it was about, other than fires, and I don't recall it.
This is one of the guys in the group that you later got your fire extinguisher from, right?
No.
Okay. We'll get to that in a second. Let's continue. Brian, can you continue?
You good?
How you got rubber bullets?
Oh, no, I just got rubber bullets. No, it doesn't mean anything else. It just stunk. It just fucking stunk.
Little pepper boy never hurt nobody.
It was literally just like,
It's a little spicy, that's all.
I was like, oh shit. It was really hot.
Yeah, a little salsa.
Does anybody need medical?
I think someone's got some medical weed, I'll tell you that.
Does anybody need medical?
You're walking around asking people in this crowd if they need medical. And you talked earlier about treating a couple, I don't know, somebody at the 59th Street car source, right?
Minor injuries.
Minor injuries. When you were walking around outside that property, when you're out in the street announcing what you're announcing, did anybody respond and say, yeah, I need help from you?
Yes.
When was that?
I don't recall an exact time, but somebody cut their finger open, and I gave them some gauze and some bandage tape.
Was that before or after this? Do you remember?
Before?
Where physically did that happen?
I don't recall.
And was this a situation where you announced or yelled out that you could help, and then somebody said, "Yeah, I need some help"? Was that what went on in that situation?
Yes.
Okay. As you're walking along here, from this point until the end, until you shoot Rosenbaum and Huber and Grosskreutz, no one in this crowd ever says to you, "Yeah, I do need medical. Come over and help me." Correct?
Yes.
That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue. This is the individual who accuses you of pointing your gun at them, right?
Yes.
And he says that you did so when he was on a vehicle, right?
Yes.
And in fact, he had been at the 59th Street car source location, climbing on, sitting on, jumping on one of the vehicles in that lot, hadn't he?
Not that I'm aware of. I know I heard Joanne Fiedler testify to that, but I don't remember seeing him at that location.
But he accuses you of that here,
He does.
and you tell him, basically, yeah, I did point the gun at you, right?
I shrugged it off and said, yeah, I did, sarcastically, meaning I didn't, but I just didn't want a confrontation, so I was like, I did, and walked away.
Why did you lie to him?
I didn't lie to him. I was using sarcasm.
The words you said, yeah, I did, those weren't true, were they?
Your Honor, this is ridiculous. We're now fighting over sarcasm. This is a murder trial.
This is sarcasm. He says it's a lie. And he's Time to examine on it. Go ahead.
When you told that individual, yeah, I did point a gun at you, that wasn't true, was it?
I didn't point a gun at him.
So why did you react to him that way in that particular moment?
I thought that would be the best way to avoid conflict. I just said, yeah, I did, sarcastically, like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What conflict were you trying to avoid?
Any conflict, if he would have got, like, he was accusing me of something I didn't do, so I thought the best thing the best thing to do would be to walk away instead of getting into some argument. So,
but you didn't just walk away. You said to him sarcastically, yeah, I did.
I said sarcastically, I did, and walked away.
Because you were worried about a conflict. What conflict were you worried about?
A verbal argument.
This individual is clearly expressing to you that he's unhappy because he thought you pointed your gun at him, correct?
Yes.
And you can understand why someone would be upset when you point an AR-15 at them, correct?
Yes.
You knew that even before this, right?
Yes.
In fact, back at the 59th Street car source, that crowd that you've described as not having any friction, many in that crowd got upset because they thought people in your group were pointing their laser pointers at them. Do you remember that?
I saw it in the videos, but I don't know what other people were doing.
I'm not saying anybody actually was. I'm saying the crowd was upset, and you knew that. You heard them complaining, correct?
Watching the videos, yes.
And even at that time, that night, you heard the crowd upset because they thought members of your group were pointing their laser pointers at them. Do you remember that from that night?
Sorta, yes or no. I remember Ryan Balch saying something like telling the people to stop pointing their lasers at people or something. I don't really remember that.
Ryan Balch was telling the people in your group to stop doing that.
The people on the roof
who were part of your group, right?
That were there, yes.
So you know when we're talking about laser pointers, we're talking about the sight at the end of some guns that helps, almost like this, right? If somebody does this at me, you know, that could be someone pointing a gun, correct?
It could be seen as that.
And that's what the crowd was complaining about, right?
Yeah.
So you knew from that crowd incident, and you certainly knew from this incident, that when people have guns pointed at them, it can really escalate the situation, correct?
Yeah, I don't think anybody had lasers on their guns. I think...
Yeah, but let's go back to your group at 59th Street, because you actually didn't know any of those people other than Dominic and Nick Smith, right?
Yes.
You had just met Ryan Balch for the first time 3 or 4 hours before this video, right?
Yeah.
You had just met Jason Lakowski for the first time, just actually only a few minutes before this, right? Because he didn't get in until 10:45.
Correct.
So at this point in the video, I don't know, this is probably about 11:30 or so at night?
I met him about 35 minutes prior to that.
And probably had only spent, what, 10, 15 minutes at all in the same location as Jason Lakowski before you walk south?
Yes.
So, again, Jason Lakowski was someone you'd never met before that night.
Correct.
And you barely spent any time with him that night, correct?
Correct.
And, of course, the people up on the roof, other than Dominic Black and Nick Smith, you didn't know any of them before that night either, correct?
I knew Dominic Black and Nick Smith, but the people on...
I misspoke their names.
Sorry.
Dominic Black and Nick Smith.
I knew those are the two people I knew on the roof.
Other than that, you didn't know anyone else before this night. Fair?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when this little interaction that we've just watched happens, you're still walking with Ryan Balch, aren't you?
I'm not. I thought I was at the time, but seeing hindsight view, I'm not.
When you decided to cross 60th with Ryan Balch, you two talked about the fact that if you get separated, to go back to the 59th Street car source, right?
I don't recall that conversation happening.
But you tried to do that, didn't you?
I did.
because you felt like if I'm out here by myself, that's not good. I need to head back, right?
Yes.
And you also talked to Ryan Balch about the fact that when you get out into this crowd, keep your mouth shut. Don't antagonize them. Didn't Ryan talk to you about that?
No, we didn't talk about that.
So at this very moment, you're telling us you've lost track of Ryan Balch.
A little bit ahead, but around that time, yes.
Let's continue the video.
What, yesterday or today?
Pause. You have just walked off the screen, heading east across Sheridan Road to the Ultimate gas station, correct?
Yes.
And at that point in time, you don't know where Ryan Balch is, correct?
When I stop and look around, yes.
And instead of deciding to head back at this point, you go over to Ultimate Gas and you talk to some folks over there. Fair?
I walk over to the Ultimate gas station, I walk around, and I try to see if I can find Mr. Balch.
And you couldn't do that.
No.
So then you decided to approach the police line and cross back, correct?
Yes.
Because you decided your best course of action at that point would be to return to the same group that you'd been with, correct?
Yes.
Now, at that moment in time, the police had pushed everybody south of 60th, right?
Sorta. I don't really know if there were.
In,
Say south to 60th?
I said south of 60th. Let's go back a little bit. We watched that interview with Richie McGinnis where he first comes up to you and talks to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you're standing there at the 59th Street property, aren't you?
I am.
And he talks to you about what you're going to do, and you're going to run out and help people, things like that, right?
Yes.
At that point, the police had already passed with all the Bearcats and MRAPs and armored vehicles, right?
It's what it looks like, yes.
And they had established a line on 60th and Sheridan, correct?
Yes.
And they pushed all of the protesters, demonstrators, rioters, whatever you want to call them, all of them south of 60th, correct?
I don't know if I can honestly answer all of them. I don't know. I believe there are some people still north down Sheridan and in the across the street.
So were there, I mean, we saw a crowd earlier of lots of protesters out in the street. That group, the numbers had dwindled quite a bit.
Yes.
Okay. So after the police move everybody south of 60th, there's no more actual threat to the 59th Street car source, is there?
I don't know.
Well, at that moment in time, what imminent threats did you see to the 59th Street car source property?
I don't know.
Do you remember seeing any protesters out in the street in front of the 59th Street car source after the police pushed everybody south of 60th?
I believe there were some across the street, but not many. I can't recall completely.
And that was just 2 or 3 people, right?
I don't know how many people.
None of those people came across the street to the 59th Street car source, did they?
I don't know. If they did, I would have walked off by now.
So you didn't see them come across the street?
I did not.
Fair to say that after the police pushed everybody south of 60th, you never saw any people threatening that property, correct?
I didn't see anybody.
And your goal that night, you took it upon yourself to protect the 59th Street property, correct?
The owners asked.
Sure. But you were going to station yourself at that property to try and protect it from damage. Fair?
The car source locations, yes.
And once the police had pushed everybody south of that, there was no more danger.
At that car source location, yes.
Okay. So why not go home at that point?
Because the police were still pushing people back, and then they were backing up, and I was still helping people provide medical first aid.
Okay, so the police had established the line at 60th with their Bearcats at that point. right?
Yes.
And there was no indication that they were going to reverse and back up and move back north again that you saw, correct?
No, they did it earlier in the night where they did the same thing.
Right, but this is at 11:30, 11:40 at night, and they've established that, the police have established that line, and as far as you can tell, it's going to stay there, right?
I don't know.
And you talked about trying to provide medical help, but there's no one around that needs medical help at the 59th Street car source at that point, is there?
Not that I noticed.
So you don't have any purpose there anymore, do you?
Other than
So why not go home?
because I was going to help people with provide first aid and medical assistance.
But that wasn't the reason you were there that night. You were there that night to protect the 59th Street car source.
It was one of the reasons I was there. Part of my reasons of being there was to protect the car source properties and provide first aid and medical assistance.
So you went out in the crowd, like we see in this video, looking for anyone who needed your help.
If somebody asked if somebody said they need help, I would have helped them.
So why go with Ryan Balch?
Because you're safer and better in pairs when there's somebody else that's also with you.
So when you crossed 60th, you were worried about your safety?
A little bit.
Even though you think this is not a hostile crowd and you're there to help them, you were still worried about your safety. That's why you needed Balch to back you up, right?
I said I didn't think they were hostile towards me. I didn't say that they weren't a hostile crowd.
So let me rephrase my question. That's to take that into account. You didn't think this was a crowd that was hostile to you personally, and you thought you were going to help them, but yet you also felt you needed a backup, an armed former Army infantryman to protect you. Fair?
Yes.
And yet when he's gone and you can't find him, you don't immediately go back, right?
I looked for him for a second, and then I think max I looked for him for like 3 minutes, and then I tried to go back.
And when you couldn't get back straight across the police lines, did you decide to try and go around the police lines? For example, the Ultimate gas station is here at 60th and Sheridan. Why didn't you walk down the street here and go over this way and around?
I don't know.
Why didn't you go west over this way and go around?
I don't know. I guess it was very close in time that I was heading back. That I was turned down by the police before I got the phone call from Dominic Black. So I guess I didn't have time to really think like which ways I can go around.
You knew the layout of downtown Kenosha, right? Because you said you drove that area the whole time, right?
A little bit.
So you go over to the Ultimate gas station and you spend some time talking with folks that are there who are similarly dressed as you. They've got similar clothing, similar weapon, things like that, right?
Similar weapons. I wouldn't say similarly dressed.
But you went over there because you felt that those were people doing something similar to what you were doing that night. Fair?
I thought that would be the safest spot for me to go.
Why did you think you'd be safe with those people?
Because I was alone, and they were, like I said, you're better in pairs, and I didn't want to be alone in that situation.
You didn't want to be alone out here with this crowd that we see on the screen right now.
I
Right?
did not want to be alone with them.
You wanted to be with the group at Ultimate Gas that had AR-15s like you, right?
I wanted to be back at the car source where there weren't people around.
Right, and we've talked about that, but initially you go to Ultimate Gas
To
and-
look for Ryan, yes.
but you also talk to people who have AR-15s just like you, right?
I wouldn't say I talked to them. I asked, after the phone call, I asked the guy for a fire extinguisher and to come with me.
Let's play exhibit number 11 at the 54-minute and 30-second mark. This is the Corey Elijah live stream when he's in the Ultimate Gas lot. Mr. Rittenhouse, that's Ryan Balch standing there in the Ultimate Gas lot, correct?
Yes.
Let's play this video.
That's the fireworks thing. Look down there.
I don't know.
Pause. We just saw you run through this video, correct?
Yes.
I started this video at the 54-minute and 30-second mark. It is now paused at the 54-minute and 56-second mark. So for 26 seconds, Corey Elijah has Ryan Balch on screen, center of this video during that entire time, right?
Yes.
And you run right past where Corey Elijah is standing, right?
Yes.
And Ryan Balch is loitering there in the middle of the screen for at least 26 seconds, right?
That's what it looks like on the screen.
And your testimony is you were trying your best to find Ryan Balch at the Ultimate Gas station at this point because you needed him to protect you?
I was looking for Ryan Balch, but I didn't notice him as I was running away, but not running away, running towards car source 3.
But for 26 seconds before you start running, he's standing right there, isn't he?
Yes, and when he's standing right there, before I run with the fire extinguisher, I'm over here on the phone with Dominic Black.
How long was your phone call with Dominic Black?
About 30 seconds.
Okay, so before that, you'd been looking for Ryan Balch?
Before that, I tried to get back to the car source lot number 1.
And you'd also been looking for Ryan Balch?
Seeing if I could see him in the crowd of people.
Because you wanted a partner, a buddy, to protect you?
To protect each other, yes.
And in fact, when you borrowed that fire extinguisher, you asked someone in that group to come along with you, right?
Yes.
Because you wanted someone there to protect you when you go down and put out what you think are some fires, right?
Yes.
Because you know that you're running into a crowd that is not friendly to you, right?
No.
That's why you had to say the word friendly, 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 because you knew this was a crowd that would not see you as friendly, correct?
I screamed friendly, friendly, friendly because somebody screamed burn inside.
I'm talking about when you crossed 60th. You yelled it then.
At that time, yes, but
And no one in the crowd is yelling burn inside or anything along those lines, are they?
not at that time.
And you also wanted someone from that group to come along with you when you're going to go down and put out a fire, because you knew full well that anyone running around like you putting fires out is going to cause a reaction in the crowd, a hostile reaction, correct?
I didn't think it would cause a negative reaction. I wanted somebody to come with me because you're better in pairs, and I thought there were other people at that car source before I got there.
Well, Dominic, if you're telling us that Dominic Black called you to run 3 blocks down the road to put out a fire at the 63rd Street car source, then you must have known at that moment that there wasn't anyone else down there, right? Why would you need to go if somebody's already down there?
Mr. Black said to me on the phone, "Hey, they're setting fires at the other car source. I need you to get down there and put out the fires." It must not have, I don't think it, I took it as there's not other people down there.
Why would you need to go 3 blocks down if there were already people there?
To help.
He's asking a question. This witness doesn't know the answer, whether there are people there or not.
He's told us he thought there were. So I'm probing the basis of that and his understanding at the time.
You can answer if you understand the question.
I'll repeat the question. Why would you need to run 3 blocks down to the 63rd car source if you thought there were already people there?
I thought there were people there, but Dominic asked me to go down there. I thought that was to help put out the fires that were down there.
This video that we're watching is minutes after you've left the 59th Street car source, right?
Yes.
And when you leave the 59th Street car source, you're with Ryan Balch
Yes.
and then this reporter, Richie McGinnis.
Yes.
And as far as you know, when you leave 59th Street car source, everybody in your group is still back there, right?
At the car source.
At 59th Street car
Yes.
source, everybody's still back there.
Yes.
Joanne Fiedler,
Yes.
Dustin Collette, Dominic Black, Nick Smith, Jason Lakowski, anyone else, they're all still there, right?
At that location, yes.
So none of your group is already down at 63rd Street car source, right?
The other group that showed up after we got done taking the pictures with the, I think I said 2 or 3 vans, I believed they were still down there.
And that was 2 or 3 vans of people that came out with what have been described as melee weapons, right? Like bats and clubs and things like that. Do you recall that? First of all, do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Do you remember seeing those 2 or 3 vans come to that location?
I do.
Do you remember seeing people get out of those vans?
Yes, like I saw, I think there were 6 people, they, in total.
And you saw them with weapons?
I saw them with rifles. I don't think I remember melee weapons.
They were armed, correct?
Yes.
And you believed that they were going to be the ones protecting the 63rd Street car source, correct?
Yes.
So at this point in time in the evening, had anybody told you that those folks had left the 63rd Street car source?
No.
So when you're running with this fire extinguisher, you think there's already a group that's designated to that spot that's still down there, right?
Yes.
So again, why do you feel that you needed to run 3 blocks down there with a fire extinguisher if you thought there were already people down there protecting that property?
Because Dominic called me and asked me to go help put out the fires down there.
And in that phone call, Dominic never told you that any of the members of the 59th Street group that you were part of, he never said any of them were down there at 63rd, right?
Yes.
And he never told you that the group that was supposed to be down there, he never told you anything about them, whether they were there or not there. He never mentioned that. Fair?
It didn't come up.
And you asked the people that you got the fire extinguisher from to come with you, right?
Yes.
You were looking for Ryan Balch for backup, right?
I was looking around for him, yes.
You had already tried to go back to the 59th Street location, right?
Yes.
And all of those failed.
Yes.
So then you decide to take it upon yourself to head down to 63rd Street to put out fires. Fair?
I wouldn't say that. I would say I went to go put out the fires that I was there to do. When I say protect the property, I mean by like put out fires. So I went to go put out the fires. I just believed there were people there.
And you brought your AR-15 along.
Yes.
Why?
Because it was with me already.
Yeah, but you'd taken it off earlier when you were treating someone. You gave it to Joanne Fiedler, right?
Yes.
So you know how to take it off, don't you?
Yes.
And you can make a choice on your own whether or not to go armed with it or whether to give it to the person who is the lawful owner of it on that date, Dominic Black. Correct?
I didn't take my rifle off there because there was nobody I could hand it to. And when I took it off to hand it to Joanne Fiedler, I was in a safe spot in that corner of the building where there were people protecting me at that time right there. When I went to go to the car source number 3 to put out the fires, there was nobody I could hand my rifle to that could protect me while I'm providing first aid to somebody.
But you still knew you had it.
My rifle, yes.
You still knew you had it strapped around your body.
Yes.
And you made a conscious decision to bring it along, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, to answer.
he gave an answer about how he already had it, and we
Go ahead.
go through on that. So,
You know, did you hear the question?
I did, but I don't really understand what.
well, was it simply that, well, I've already got it strapped on, so I might as well bring it along? Is that what you're telling us? You decided to bring along the AR-15 because, well, I've already got it? Is that your answer?
I don't think I was thinking like, hey, I'm going to take my rifle off. I wouldn't have, because there was people around that could have stolen my gun, and I didn't. I didn't take my rifle off because I was going there alone. I was going to be running there alone, and I didn't take it off because no one else was there to protect me as I was going there. So that's why I brought it.
For protection.
Yes.
You brought it along down there because you felt like you would need to protect yourself against someone else harming you. Correct?
If that would have happened, I would have protected myself, but I didn't think I was going to be attacked and ambushed.
But you just said you had it for protection. What were you expecting you would need protection from?
I thought we had covered much of this before.
I'm specifically focusing in on the time period where he is heading down to the 63rd Street car source. I have not asked him about this yet, Your Honor.
Well, go ahead, but you need to pick up the pace somewhat.
When you decided to bring your AR-15 loaded with 30 rounds down to the 63rd Street car source location, what did you think you needed protection against?
I didn't really think I was going to have to protect myself.
You told us just now you brought it along for protection.
I did, but I didn't think I was going to need to protect myself.
You brought it along for protection, but you didn't think you needed protection?
That's not what he said. Objection.
I'm trying to clarify the two different answers that I think he just gave, Your Honor.
Well, go ahead. Can you?
Do you understand the question?
Not really.
I asked you why you brought the gun. You said you needed it for protection. I said, protection against what? You said you didn't think you needed protection. I'm confused. Can you help me understand why you're telling us you needed a gun for protection, but you didn't think you needed protection?
I brought the gun for my protection, but what I was saying is I didn't think I would have to use the gun and end up defending myself.
So you, in this video, are running.
Yes.
You run across the screen. Yes?
Yes.
And then I think you testified on direct that as you made it down the block, I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but you stopped running and you walked for a little while. Is that right?
I jogged and walked occasionally.
Carrying the fire extinguisher and your gun.
Yes.
And you're alone at that point with no backup, right?
Yes.
And you testified that when you got down to the 63rd Street car source, you indicated that you came upon that vehicle we've been calling the Duramax. You know what vehicle I'm talking about?
I do.
And you indicated that when you got there, you walked around that vehicle and you saw a person that you now know to be Joshua Zeminski. Is that right?
I walked up to the Duramax. Yes.
You didn't know Joshua Zeminski's name at that point, correct?
No.
You hadn't taken any notice of him at all up until that moment, all night long. Fair?
Fair.
This is the first time that you see that this is a person that comes to your attention. Fair?
Yes.
And you said he had a gun in his hand.
Yes.
And you put the fire extinguisher down on the ground.
I dropped the fire extinguisher.
And then you hear or see Mr. Rosenbaum coming from behind you.
When I get to the Duramax, I step forward, and then Mr. Zeminski turns towards me, and he steps towards me. I drop the fire extinguisher, step back, and that's when I see. I go to run back towards 59th Street.
And Mr. Rosenbaum is coming.
I want to interrupt. Mr. Rosenbaum, 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 I want to interru
And then that's when I noticed Mr. Rosenbaum running at me, leaving me with no other, right? Mr. Zeminski in front of me with the gun, Mrs. Zeminski right there, a couple feet away, and then some other people there.
And then the chase happens. Is that
Yes.
fair to say?
Yes.
Have you told us everything that you did when that situation just happened at the Duramax?
Yes.
Can we play the iPad, please? The iPad with the drone video? This is exhibit number 73. I don't know if what are you guys going to do? Okay. Is it on this one too? Okay. What happened to that TV? Mr. Rittenhouse, this is a video that has been admitted into evidence as exhibit number 73. This is a video taken by a drone that was hovering south of 63rd at the time that you shot Mr. Rosenbaum. We're going to play the beginning of this video on the iPad, and I'm going to have Detective Howard use the pinch and zoom feature on the iPad to zoom in on the area.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this, and I'd like to be heard outside the presence of the jury.
What do you think? Perfect time for a break, don't you think? Let's take a break. Please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial.
All right. Well, prosecutor still ain't. He's not bringing anything. It's just talking in circles, trying to get Kyle, tripped up, saying the same thing over and over again. I think the judge probably didn't let the mistrial thing go through because this way they can try and come to a conclusion, unless he has to yell at the prosecutor some more, which I think will happen. Yeah, hydrodynamic. I think the judge is totally over everything. He just wants it to come to an end.
What's up?
Your Honor.
Excuse me, what? I think they went upstairs, though. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I don't know what the state's going to do next, but I suspect that it's something along the lines of they're going to use the iPad, and Mr. Binger was talking about pinching the screen. iPads, which are made by Apple, have artificial intelligence in them that allow things to be viewed through 3 dimensions and logarithms. Logarithms, I don't understand it all either. And it uses artificial intelligence or their logarithms to create what they believe is happening. So this isn't actually enhanced video. This is Apple's iPad programming creating what it thinks is there, not what necessarily is there. And I don't know what's going to happen, but we had this video enhanced. We have testimony regarding it, and this is one of the topics that came up. I asked my expert. I said, do you know of anything that does something like that? because that was when Detective Antaramian testified about pinching his telephone. And that's what I was told. And that's what I think this is going. And I don't think that it's appropriate. It's wrong.
Mr. Binger?
Your Honor, I think everybody in this room has a smartphone, whether it's an Apple iPhone or some other device. And I think we've all taken a photograph or a video at one point or another and used the pinch to zoom in feature. This is a common part of everyone's everyday life. In the olden days, you had a photograph and a magnifying glass, right? That doesn't change the photograph. When you use a magnifying glass to look at words on a paper or a photograph, the magnifying glass doesn't change the image. It doesn't change the pixels on the paper. It doesn't change the words in the book. All it does is make them easier to see. The pinch and zoom feature on the iPad or the iPhone or an Android phone, whatever device everyone in this room has, does that exact same thing. Now, if counsel has an expert who will say that this is unreliable or distorting the image or something along those lines, even though this is something everybody in this room has done with countless videos and photos throughout the last 10 years of our lives here, this is a factor. This is a feature of everyday life in America now with smartphones. If they want to have an expert come in and say it's unreliable and you can't believe what's on that screen, they can do that. We're still in their case. And then the jury can make a decision as to whether or not pinching and zooming on an iPad or an iPhone is tampering with the video or altering the image or unreliable or shouldn't be given any weight. So if they want to make a jury question out of this, they are free to do so. We're still in their case in chief. But I don't, frankly, understand or agree with anything counsel just said. I've used my phone, I think probably you have too. I think this is something within everyone's common knowledge, to pinch and zoom on a screen. And that's what's going on here. It does not change the image in any way. It just makes it like a magnifying glass.
Well, I don't know. When I put the magnifying glass up, then it's enlarging the image. It is not altering the image. What he's saying, and I think, and I know less than anyone in the room here, I'm sure, about all this stuff, but I'm hearing him to say that they're actually artificially inserting pixels into there, which is altering the object which is being portrayed. And so, you know what, I myself, when confronted with these changes in technology, what I usually do is to admit the evidence, but make sure that the finder of fact is aware of the fact that it is not the original image and the method by which it's been enhanced. You're suggesting that I should make the defense bring in an expert for it. My thought would be that actually you're the one who's offering the exhibit, so you should be in a position to offer evidence as to the fact that it is not distorting the object which is depicted.
I would submit, Your Honor, that I think it's common sense to everyone in this room that that's not what's going on here. And what counsel is saying about Apple software and logarithms and things like that is not something that people in this room are familiar with.
I thought I heard the expert say on the stand, and believe me, again, this is not something I'm familiar with, but I thought I heard the expert say that you brought down from the crime lab that in fact that there were alterations made by adding pixels. That's an alteration of the image. So I don't have any problem with it being received, but you're going to have someone testify that it's a reliable, I don't want to say mirror image, but because obviously if you insert more items into an area of space, it's going to distort what's depicted.
I think, Your Honor, when the pinch and zoom maneuver is used on a screen, it actually, it takes the high resolution that we see here and it brings it into the point where the pixels are actually spread out more.
You know what? I'm not going to accept as accurate what Richards is saying, and I'm not going to accept what you're telling me. I said if you can offer somebody who's knowledgeable in these areas the document or I think you should be allowed to use the image. But this is high risk to me. If you insert more data into an area of space, well, you're wagging your head no. Tell me where I'm wrong.
There's no proof in this record that we're doing that, Your Honor.
I didn't say there was proof of it. I said you have the burden of proof. You're the proponent of the exhibit, and you need to tell me that it's reliable.
The exhibit's already in evidence, Your Honor.
That I know.
The enhanced exhibit is not in evidence.
This is not enhancing.
Well, then why show it?
I
mean, the reason you want to show it is because it enhances the image, right? No, one at a time.
I'll say what Mr. Krause was just saying. The defense has taken videos and photos and cropped them, zoomed in on them, on many exhibits in this trial. And this is, again, like I said, the magnifying glass is not changing the image. What the expert testified to about his software program was that he used video editing software used by the crime lab with pinching and zooming on an iPhone. They're different software programs, different procedures, and I don't think it's fair to extrapolate this. Every one of those jurors is familiar with this process. This is a fundamental part of our lives nowadays. It's much like 100 years ago people used magnifying glasses. This is no different than that. And I think this is common knowledge, and I don't think I need any sort of expertise on this issue. If the defense wants to quibble with it, they have an expert who can offer testimony. But the exhibit's already in evidence. It would be no different than me putting off a photograph of it and then holding up an enlargement. I mean, we had a guy coming yesterday with Walgreens prints. I mean, this is what is done with photographs all the time. There's enlargements done in the lab. It doesn't change the pixels.
No. You know, I don't want to hear about what happened earlier in the trial that came in without objection. If you didn't object, then I didn't address it. Now, I'm not going to police this case, so everybody, anytime somebody wants to put some evidence in, I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, what about that? What about that? I have to have an objection. I get an objection, and then I rule on it. There has been no objection during this trial when either side has exploded an image or anything like that. If you'd have brought in an objection, if he'd have brought in an objection, I would have ruled on it. But to say now, well, this has already been done during the trial. I've got an objection in front of me now. He's suggesting that the amplifying the image is altering what is portrayed, the image which is portrayed, and you're giving me as a defense, it's no different from using a magnifying glass. I don't believe that, because if I take, the image is the same, and all it is doing is improving my poor old vision. Here you've got someone, to correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe the expert testified that he had inserted, or either him or the device inserted additional pixels into the image. That
different program, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know what kind of a program. I don't care what kind of a program it is. The question is the image in its virginal state?
I care about what program it is, Your Honor, because these are technical issues. Mr. Richards has just made representations with no basis whatsoever.
Can you slow down?
Absolutely.
Just say it over again.
Mr. Richards has just made technical representations with no basis in this record whatsoever. He is questioning a common part of life that we use, everyone uses, every single day. The expert who testified was talking about a different software program, and it does make a difference.
I don't know.
Well, then if it's going to be an issue, let's
you're
make
the
it a
proponent.
shot.
I said before, I'm not going to talk about it further. You're the proponent, and you need to assure me before I let the jury speculate on it, that it is a reliable method that does not distort what is depicted.
So
Okay, so we're going to take a break.
I understood you correctly. We can play it now, and then we'll tie it up later.
I don't think that's what I said.
That's what I thought you said, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I did. If I said that, shame on me. I said that we're going to take a break right now, and I said before I'm going to allow this to be amplified in the way that you want, it is going to have to be shown, demonstrated to me that it's a reliable way to do it.
Then we would request an adjournment to do that now.
Well, we're not going to adjourn the case now to do that.
Well, before I am done with my cross-examination of this witness, I would like to use this video, and I will need some time to make arrangements for what you're asking. So I would ask that before I am, I would like time to do that before I'm done cross-examining this witness, because this is an important exhibit that I intend to use with
Well,
this
it
witness.
depends. Why don't you get on it right away, and maybe you can get somebody to testify on this within minutes. I don't know. So we'll take a break.
What
Let's.
operating system are they using on the iPad?
We can answer that question.
Do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
Thank you.
Well,
iPad market.
okay. Let's aim for 3:20 on that clock, which is. Yeah, let's aim for 3:20.
Well, that's interesting. I was trying to figure out if that's true or not. That if you do zoom in on an iPad, does it artificially add color and whatever, enhance the photo so you can see it clearer? I cannot find information on that. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but I don't know right off the top of my head if it does or does not. But I'm looking it up, and I haven't found it yet. So, not sure. Not sure if that's true. It's true. I figured you guys would know. I don't mess with Apple stuff. I got an iMac Pro from like 2016 or something. I've never even used an iPad. Never even touched one. I don't even know what it's like. Sure, Chris, you got an e-phone? It's like an iPhone, but that's in Canada. So, yeah. So, by technicality, it would be enhancing the photo, which was never submitted into evidence. So, they're not going to be able to use that. They might still use it. Who knows? They seem to be letting this prosecutor slide a lot for as much as he's getting yelled at. They're almost like a family at this point. Kills me. Thank you so much, Soil Tender, for continuing on with the membership program. You're officially a hooligan. And thank you so much, RV Sarah, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. Go Jump. It's called dithering. That's interesting. There's dithering in music, which essentially does the same thing. I just didn't realize there was a visual version of dithering. Hydrodynamic. You're touching your iPad right now? Why does it sound like a creep when I read your comment? Like, I'm touching my iPad right now. Like old man Walter. That's funny. Yes, Nix. I'm an iPad virgin, I suppose. You heathens. You hooligans. What's up, USA Forever? Darth, it is called dithering. Cool. Yeah, I did not know that there was a visual version of dithering. That's interesting. JP, you should touch my iPad, Jeff. That's what she said. Hydrodynamic, your iPad's a slut. We got a thought bot on Discord. It's like that. It's everybody's favorite bot. Kind of like Nightbot. Y'all are trying to turn Nightbot out. Nightbot's not that kind of bot. What's up, CC? What's up, baby steps? Serum, if I dither my junk, will it get bigger? Maybe. It might. It might. The secret's out. Death Striker, you heard that the jury is done taking notes. Essentially, you think they know what they're thinking. Yeah, I bet for a while they've been on top of that. They're probably like just sitting here laughing at the prosecutor at this point. What's up, Annie? Are you okay? Thank you so much, Joey, for joining the membership program, and welcome to the family. You're officially a hooligan. Snooks, now you want to buy an iPad just so I can touch it? I didn't mean for it to sound like that. It sounded, well, all right, deal. I'll touch your iPad, I guess, if you really want me to. That's consent. Steve, I don't know if they kicked me off. I don't know what happened. It was totally fine on my end. But everybody was saying that the feed was not good. Nobody was really describing what was going on, like what you guys were looking at. Everybody was just saying how much it sucked, which is like not very good feedback. But when there's like a couple hundred people saying that, I'm like, well, I should probably shut it down and give it another try. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if that was censorship or if that was just a fluke or what. It looked totally fine on my end. Death Striker, it kept buffering. Yeah, I'm not sure what that was about. Because on the YouTube dashboard, it did say that it was having trouble receiving the feed. But then on Twitch, it said that my bandwidth was fine. And I didn't have any flags on my software, so I don't know what was going on. There was a lot of buffering and then a black screen with Jeff Mack in the bottom right hand corner. The Jeff Mack in the bottom right hand corner, I think, is just, yeah, that's just because it's on my channel. So they were black screening me, I guess. They did a green screen when I was doing the hearings for irregularities back before Walter was in office. And things like that were happening. That was when I first started getting censored. And then, I don't know, right in the middle of a trial, everybody kind of did the same thing. It was like, yo, what is going on? And I didn't know what was happening, so I shut it down, or maybe they shut it down. And I went live again, and I checked back after that live to see what happened, and they had turned the whole screen green, so you couldn't see what was on the screen. Wood carving wedge, I mean, if it still works, I would totally check it out. Yeah, Patriots in Bloom. YouTube used to be a lot more out in the open with how they did their censorship. Now they're like more roundabout, sneaky about it, like taking likes away in the middle of a live, just watching the likes go down. People stating that they have to like the video more than one time during the same live, taking away subscribers, shadow banning, so like it'll say that I'm not live while I am live, or not putting me on your timeline when I go live, because a live comes over new, like it has more priority than a new video. So if you're subscribed to me and I go live, no matter what other videos came out If I'm the only person you're subscribed to that's live, I should be on the top of your list right when you go into YouTube. If I'm not, it's because I'm being shadow banned. As part of their algorithm, they're real sneaky with how they do censorship. What are y'all fighting with each other on Twitch? It's 44 of you just duking it out. Okay, well, I'll just let you be. They're probably going over the whole situation with enhancing the iPad to the judge. I couldn't even imagine trying to explain that to someone of that age. Like a lot of you know, I grew up with my great-grandparents, and a lot of stuff that I was interested in a kid, they couldn't even fathom like how to do it, how to use it. Like when cell phones came out and they were available to everyone without a contract, they didn't know how to work a cell phone. I didn't even know how to explain it to them. I couldn't imagine trying to explain enhancement of, pixelated photos to someone that doesn't understand what pixels are or anything like that. Death Striker, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea, but it is interesting reading that out of context. Kevin, you couldn't find my live? Yeah, there's a good chance that this is being shadow banned. We were watching Law and Crime earlier. That's where we were watching the stream, and they were being shadow banned. I had to look for them specifically in order to find their live. Amy Klein, someone you know, has posted about new rules for YouTube. I'm surprised I didn't get an email. Maybe I will. Usually when they change the terms and conditions or whatever it's called, they'll give me an email. I'll have to look into it. It's hard to keep track with new rules all the time. Oh, Death Striker, I see. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clearing that up. I was wondering if there was slang for Discord. Thank you so much, Annie. Are you okay? I really appreciate the donation and the support. You're awesome. Thank you so much for being here. John Costello, YouTube doesn't want me to know the new rules. Could be. They have a little bit of grace most of the time. When they'll come out with a new rule, all of a sudden you'll just get a video taken down and you'll get an email and they'll be like, hey, by the way, we just totally removed your video and you probably didn't know, but we changed the rules 16 seconds ago. And so we took this video down because you're breaking the rules, but don't worry, you're not being punished. We're just going to keep your video and you no longer have it on your channel or own it. That's usually how they do things. I actually just had a riot video become restricted, like a video that's more than, it's like 18 months old or something like that, and I got an email saying, oh, this is whatever against terms of service, we're going to restrict this to 18 or older. Like, okay. I can't remember what it was. It was something protesting and stuff. What's up, Vic? Space Pirate, the new thing is they're going to remove the dislike button. They might. They might. Instagram took away likes for a while. You couldn't you couldn't see how many likes somebody had on their photos. I don't think you could see their comments either. They were trying to, I don't know, they were doing some sort of experiment. They might do that on here. They see how the White House stuff goes. That thumbs down button's getting overused. Will he fix it? No, I have not tried Foxhole yet. I know that Salty Cracker streams on there. I've thought about checking it out. I'm maxed out right now. I can only stream to like 5 different platforms at once. And so once I become displeased with one of these, or if I get banned off YouTube, then I'll be checking that out. Thunder Chicken, they're taking a break. They should be back any minute. Gary, that's an interesting idea. I don't know how that works because I'm pretty sure you'd have to be 18 in order to buy a pocket knife. And so you would have to go through a verification process just to get to the store itself. I'm pretty sure. I think there would be restrictions against me being able to do that. '69 Drummer, do I feel like it was a mistake for Kyle to take the stand? I mean, not really. I don't think he had to. I think that this would have been over by now if he would have said no. If he would have been like, no, Kyle's not taking the stand. They're not bringing up any more witnesses. The defense attorney or whatever they are, the district attorney, they have already rested their case. So, I mean, it already was heavily persuaded in Kyle's favor due to all the footage, all the stupid statements by the liars and stuff like that. Having the DA's office totally being called out for manipulating and intimidating a witness. They could have just left that alone and had a verdict. There wouldn't have been any kind of mistrial talk or anything like that. It would have totally been done. But Kyle, I don't think is like incriminated himself in any kind of way at this point. There's been some like kind of iffy stuff said, but most of it is still in his favor. So I don't think it's a mistake, at least at this point. Okay, wood carving wedge. I will definitely check it out as soon as I'm off the live. Yeah, Tara, I think Kyle's doing pretty good for as young as he is. I think that they went over like how this trial was going to go many times. He's, in my opinion, he's doing all the right things. Hydrodynamic, apparently a friend of George Floyd threatened the jury. I heard it was like his son. I heard it was like one of his kids that was like on a live, or they made videos or something talking about doing stuff to the jury. I haven't seen it for myself though. That's only something I've heard from other people. John Costello, this is just showing more reason to disbar the prosecution. I agree. This guy is, I can't believe he's like interrupting and arguing and like raising his voice to the judge. That's questionable. That is questionable. I don't know where he gets that bravery from. His boyfriend must give him a real big pep talk before he leaves for work in the morning. Because he's, I don't know, you're brave or stupid trying to argue with a judge like that, interrupting him and stuff. And the judge gets pissed off and calls breaks. He's like, I'm tired of your shit. You know what? We're going to a break. Blah, blah. Like, I don't know. Like I said earlier, it's like they're arguing like family at this point. It's allegedly George Floyd's nephew. You guys got it on the Discord? Alright, I'll check it out in a second. Annie, are you okay? That sounds like a good one. We'll probably do a poll on that. Thank you so much, Vapula and Chad, for subscribing on Twitch. You guys are awesome. Hey, thanks for being here, Andrea. I wonder how long it'll take the jury to come to a conclusion. When the George Floyd one happened, I don't even think I was at the house. I think it just randomly came up and people were asking me, hey, are you going live? And I was like an hour away from the house. I've been wondering how this is going to go. Shipwreck. No, we're not waiting for a verdict. They are taking a break. They were supposed to come back probably almost 5 minutes ago. But I think that they're trying to explain to the judge how zooming in on an iPad has artificial intelligence that enhances the photos as you zoom in.
I know we got one in the back.
That's what she said. I think the judge is with it, though. He keeps bringing up, like, constitutional rights and all this other stuff. I think he's like, come on, prosecution, say what you gotta say so we can send him home.
All right, let's get the jury.
What's up, Rock and Roll Joe? I'm doing pretty good. I hope you are too. Oh dang. Judge brought out the mixed drink. Gonna have him some Hennessy while sitting here listening to these idiots at the trial. What's up, Dave? Fellow hooligander. Buck fighting. I don't know what happened to the stream earlier. I don't know if it was censorship or if it was just a technical error. I'm not exactly sure. It was fine on my end. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Front centrally, we're going to watch exhibit number 82. This is a version of the drone footage that was introduced by our expert James Armstrong yesterday. And I'd like to be able to put this TV centrally so everybody can see it. So if you could let us know if you're able to see it when we move it, please. Oh, yeah, I'll turn them on.
Oh, I guess it works again. That's cool.
Are all the jurors able to see that okay? Both sides? Okay. Judge, may I use Sister Marciana's point of view? Thank you very much. As we play this video...
Use Father McGinnity's
As we play this video, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I would... I'm going to direct your attention to this location, which is at the front end of the Duramax. There's an individual here on the sidewalk who is pushed or is in a wheelchair, and there's a little bit of a gap there between that individual and the Duramax. And I'd like you to keep your eyes on that location. Before we begin the video, Mr. Rittenhouse, are you able to see this video okay?
Yes.
All right. Please go ahead and play that. Could we please play that again? I'm going to have you pause at a moment right at the beginning. Pause. Now, Mr. Rittenhouse, you told us earlier everything that you did when you first got to this location, correct?
Yes.
What you didn't tell us is that right here on the video, you have your gun raised, don't you?
I can't see it.
You know what? This is a nice 4K TV. I'm going to turn it a little bit towards you. Move it a little bit back so the jury can see. Are you able to see that screen okay?
I don't think all the jurors can see it now.
I want to be able to play it for the defendant to be able to see it up close.
I understand. I'm just thinking if perhaps he could take the chair that the officer is in right now. And do you want to go over there as well?
Would you, would it be easier, Mr. Rittenhouse, if you came and stood a little closer to that screen?
Is that the same definition?
Well, you know, and you're using the pointer, so we want to all be looking at the same TV.
Okay.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate for Mr. Rittenhouse to come
Sure.
stand closer to the TV?
As long as he doesn't block the jurers, he and Mr. Richards can go over here.
All right,
And,
let's, I'll move this back.
stand way down there if you would, please.
Let's go back to the beginning of the video, please, and I'm going to tell you when to pause.
Don't watch that one. We can't see.
Well. All right, let's start the video. Pause. Mr. Rittenhouse, you just came into the screen, put the fire extinguisher down, and now you've got your weapon raised, don't you? Let's play it one more time. Pause. Mr. Rittenhouse, can you see in that video that you've raised your weapon and pointed it at someone?
I can't tell from this angle.
Let's play it one more time.
Your Honor, he's answered the question.
Well, he says he can't see, so I'm trying to help him see. Go ahead.
All he has to do is keep saying he can't see it.
Pause the video.
It doesn't look like I raised my rifle. It looks like my shoulder's up, but my rifle is pointed downward.
Thank you.
What the hell was that? Did one of them transform? Is there a toaster there? They had to
Your
mute the
testimony
audio.
today under oath is that you have no memory of raising and pointing your rifle when you first got to that location. Is that right?
Yes.
You see yourself put the fire extinguisher down.
I see myself drop it. Yes.
Let's play Exhibit 84 now, please.
The big guy already knows they lost. He's been crying off and on all day. Look at him just sitting there emotionless, just broken inside.
Pause. In this video at this point, Mr. Rittenhouse, you have turned around and you are pointing your weapon at Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Yes.
And there is a point. Let's continue the video, please. All right, let's pause. Go back and start at the beginning again, please. Pause. You go back about half a second, please. Go back just a little bit more, please. Why don't you go back to the beginning, hit play, and I'll try and pause you a little bit better.
Just keep playing it until you see what we're telling you to see. It's like watching CNN.
There's a point where Mr. Rosenbaum is running after you, where he raises his hands and leaps up in the air. Correct?
I wouldn't say he leaped in the air. I'd say he continued to run at me. He just threw his hands up.
He threw both of his hands up in the air. Right?
Yes.
And you could see that he was unarmed. Correct?
Yes.
Please continue the video.
I'm not going to keep pushing my luck here.
Pause. Joseph Rosenbaum never touched you in any way during that incident, correct?
He touched my gun.
He didn't touch your body in any way, did he?
No.
He didn't kick you?
No.
He didn't punch you?
No.
Other than that plastic bag, he didn't throw anything at you?
No.
He didn't have a gun on him?
No.
He didn't have a knife on him?
No.
He didn't have a chain on him?
No.
He didn't have a bat on him?
No.
He didn't have any weapon of any kind, correct?
Other than him grabbing my gun, no.
Well, he didn't have possession of that gun. You did, correct?
I was holding it, yes.
And it was strapped to your body, correct?
Yes.
At all times during this incident, you retained possession of your AR-15, correct?
Yes.
Can we please play exhibit, I apologize, Brian, I don't know if I mentioned this one earlier. I think it's 83. It's the full speed version of what we just saw. That was 84 just now, right? Okay, let's play 83, please. Mr. Rittenhouse, while you're watching this video, I'd like you to tell me if you see Mr. Rosenbaum jump up in the air with his hands up, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead and play. All right, pause. Can we go back to the beginning, please? And play again. Pause. Right before Mr. Rosenbaum disappears behind that car, did you see him jump up in the air with his hands out?
No, I saw him do something like this, like
That was a reaction to you pointing the gun at him, correct?
yes, but he kept running at me, so it didn't deter him.
But it slowed him down a little bit. He does this sort of jump with his hands in the air when you're pointing the gun at him, right?
No, he continues to gain speed on me.
Okay. Now let's play Exhibit 86, please. Go ahead. All right, pause it. Did you slow down?
Did I?
Yeah.
I turned around, and I may have slowed down a little bit.
It looks like you slowed down before you even turned around.
Yes.
You've characterized Mr. Rosenbaum as advancing on you, speeding up towards you, but you actually slowed down, didn't you?
Because of the people around the cars, yes.
But
He was cornered.
you run around those cars and head back towards the direction you originally wanted to go to, right?
Yes.
So those people didn't stop that, did they?
They weren't there after I shot Mr. Rosenbaum.
They scattered after you fired your gun 4 times, didn't they?
Yes, they weren't there anymore.
And you've heard Dr. Kelly's testimony that the first gunshot from you to Mr. Rosenbaum caused Mr. Rosenbaum to start falling to the ground. Did you hear that testimony?
I did.
And then you continued to fire 3 more shots into him after that, didn't you?
I continued to fire until he was no longer a threat to me.
When he's falling to the ground in front of you, he's no longer a threat to you. His pelvis is broken, right?
I don't know.
But he's fallen to the ground, isn't he?
I saw him lunging towards my gun, and I remember his hand on the barrel of my gun.
Because he was trying to push it out of the way so you wouldn't shoot him.
Jackson, I call some speculation.
Sustained.
What was the risk to you of death or great bodily harm at the moment you killed Joseph Rosenbaum?
If I would have let Mr. Rosenbaum take my firearm from me, he would have used it and killed me with it and probably killed more people if I would have let him get my gun.
Mr. Rosenbaum never said anything to you about taking your gun, did he?
He didn't say anything, but he tried to take my gun.
And whoever's got that gun is a threat to everyone else?
If he would have taken my gun, he would have used it against me.
Let's break that down. First of all, you had already prevented him from taking your gun by running away and doing that little dip and dodge that Mr. McGinnis talked about, right?
He was still coming after my gun.
But you could have kept running. You could
No,
have turned back around like you did, couldn't you?
No, I couldn't have.
You have the gun strapped to your body at this moment, correct?
Yes.
The strap is designed to keep that on your body so it doesn't come off, correct?
To help retain it, yes.
And you have both hands on the gun, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Rosenbaum has never said anything at all about wanting your gun. You never heard him say anything about that, correct?
I haven't.
You never said anything, he never said anything to you about using that gun at all, correct?
I don't know what Mr. Rosenbaum was thinking when he tried to grab my gun.
You just assumed that he was going to use it, that he was going to try and take it from you, first of all, and then you assumed he was going to try and use it on you.
If I would have let Mr. Rosenbaum get my gun, he would have killed me.
But you had already pointed your gun at him.
Yes, because he was chasing me.
Did you want him to think that you were going to shoot him?
No, I never wanted to shoot Mr. Rosenbaum.
Why'd you point it at him if you didn't have any intention of shooting?
He was chasing me. I was alone. He threatened to kill me earlier in that night. I didn't want to have to shoot him.
But you understand how dangerous it is to point a gun at someone, don't you?
I pointed at him because he kept running at me, and I didn't want him to chase me.
But you understand how dangerous that is, don't you?
I pointed at him because he was chasing me.
I'll ask the question a third time, Mr. Rittenhouse. You understand
Don't comment on, just ask your question.
How is this not badgering a witness?
You understand how dangerous it is to point a gun at someone, correct?
Yes.
You understand that that puts someone else in fear.
I pointed at him because he was chasing me.
I'll ask the question a third time, Mr. Rittenhouse. You understand
Don't comment on, just ask your question.
I don't know why it just skipped.
You understand how dangerous it is to point a gun at someone, correct?
Yes.
You understand that that puts someone else in fear that they're about to be killed, right?
He was chasing me.
You understand that when you point your AR-15 at someone else, that may make them feel like they are about to be killed by you, correct?
Mr. Rosenbaum was chasing me. He said he was going to kill me if he got me alone. I was alone. I was running from him. I pointed at him, and it didn't stop him from continuing to chase me.
Did you hear my question?
Yes.
Yet you chose not to answer.
Objection, Your Honor. He answered. He just didn't like the answer.
My question is, you understand that when you point your AR-15 at someone, it may make them feel like you're going to kill them, correct?
False for speculation.
Not while being chased.
He asked if it would affect someone that way so as to perhaps deter the person.
Do you understand my question?
I do.
Can you please answer it?
I did. I said, Mr. Rosenbaum was chasing me. I pointed my gun at him, and that did not deter him. He could have ran away instead of trying to take my gun from me. But he kept chasing me. It didn't stop him.
Mr. Rittenhouse, you're telling us that you felt like you were about to die, right?
Yes.
But when you point the gun at someone else, that's going to make them feel like they're about to die, right? That's what you wanted him to feel.
No.
You wanted him to get the message from you that if you come any closer, I'm going to kill you. That's why you pointed the gun at him, right?
I pointed the gun at him to deter him from... I pointed the gun at him so he would stop chasing me. That's why I pointed the gun at him.
Because if you point the gun at him, you were hoping he would stop chasing you because he would get the message from you that if he keeps coming, you're going to kill him, right?
I didn't want to have to kill Mr. Rosenbaum.
That's not the question I asked.
It's serving no legitimate purpose.
It seems argumentative, Mr.
All he has to say, he just has to say he doesn't know what someone else would feel because he's not them. And then he wouldn't be able to ask this question anymore.
You intended, in that sequence we just saw, you intended to point your gun back at Mr. Rosenbaum in the middle of the parking lot, right?
I pointed at him so he would stop chasing me, but he didn't stop.
That was your intentional decision to point at him. That wasn't an accident.
I'm going to interrupt here. The jury cannot see you.
I thought we'd moved it. I'm sorry.
No, so please get it out of there.
Yeah, Cloud9. Yeah, I totally understand why Kyle is flustered. It's hard being under that much pressure.
The point I'm trying to get at, Mr. Rittenhouse, is that wasn't like an accidental turning around and it just happens to be pointing in his direction, much like I'm just happen to, wave this around. You made an intentional decision in the middle of that incident to turn and point the gun at Mr. Rosenbaum, correct?
Yes.
And you can understand why that would make someone fearful for their life, right?
But he continued to chase me after, so no, I can't.
It didn't work.
It didn't stop Mr. Rosenbaum from chasing me.
And even after you shoot him one time and he starts falling, you continue to shoot 3 more times, right?
I continued to shoot until he was no longer a threat to me.
And then after that, you run around and he's lying there, face down on the ground, correct?
Yes.
And you're a medic, correct?
I have first aid training, yes.
Well, you proclaimed yourself that night to be a medic, an EMT. You told everyone that, right?
Yes.
And you had your medic bag with you, correct?
Yes.
And this location is right across the street from a hospital, isn't it?
Yes.
But your first thought was run away.
My first thought was to help him.
You didn't do anything to help him. You didn't do a single thing, did you?
The crowd started to scream, "Get him, get him, get him." And I didn't want to stay there with the crowd building and the mob advancing on me.
Were you surprised that a crowd would react that way when they just saw you shoot someone?
I don't know.
When you stood over Mr. Rosenbaum's body, did you know?
I'm Go ahead.
When you stood over Mr. Rosenbaum's body, did you know whether he was dead or alive?
I didn't.
Did you know whether or not it was possible at that moment to try and save him?
I wanted to help Mr. Rosenbaum, and if the crowd wouldn't have started screaming to get him, get him, get him, I would have stayed and did everything I could to help Mr. Rosenbaum, but the crowd just started to chase me and scream at me.
Let's play, can we have Exhibit 14, please? At the 3-hour, 58-minute, and 45-second mark.
I don't think he ever really stood over the person on the ground at any point. So, like, like I keep mentioning, word selection is a big deal in court. If you ever hear people talk about lawyers being slimy or like not trusting lawyers and stuff like that, this is why. This is exactly why. They will behave this way for enough money.
And blindside. So the orders you hear about yelling no cameras, it was white boys. That's Antifa, man. Oh, you got a gun, baby. Oh, you shoot. Yeah. Oh, you shot him.
Plus, after you fired your 4 shots at Mr. Rosenbaum, there were 3 more gunshots right after that, right?
Yes.
And those were coming from very close to where you were, weren't they?
Yes.
They were coming from right here on the south side of the 63rd Street car source, right alongside 63rd Street on the north side of 63rd, right?
Yes.
You didn't react at all to those gunshots, did you?
At that time, my audio was still going in and out partially.
But again, my question is, you didn't react at all to those, did you?
Not that I can see.
Let's continue, please.
Shot him, man. Shot him. Shot him, man. He laid him out. He laid him out, y'all. He laid him out.
No one in that crowd yells, "Get him," or anything threatening towards you until after you start running away, right?
No.
You had time in that moment to make a phone call, didn't you?
I called Dominic Black, yes.
You could have called 911, right?
Yes.
But you chose to call your best friend, right?
I called the first number on my phone.
Is that quicker than 3 digits, 911?
I don't know.
And then you started running.
Yes.
And the first person you encounter as you're running is Jason Lakowski, correct?
Yes.
This is a person that you had barely known for 15 minutes that night, right?
Yes.
And you told him you didn't shoot anyone, correct?
No.
You heard his testimony about that, right?
Yes.
Can we please play exhibit number 12? While we're getting that ready, you talked earlier about this crowd and what they were saying, and you felt like they were coming after you. You had time to stop and have a brief little talk with Jason Lakowski, didn't you?
I stopped for a second and asked him to help me get to the police.
Even with this crowd on top of you, as you describe it, you still had time for that, didn't you?
For a second. I stopped for a second.
Let's play exhibit number 12, please.
So there was just like 6 shots.
Back up 10 seconds, please. Go ahead. Pause. There are people in the crowd that are asking you why you just shot someone, right?
Yes.
And you told him he had a gun.
At the time I was a little dazed and I was thinking of Mr. Zeminski with the pistol he had at the Duramax.
So you shot Mr. Rosenbaum because Joshua Zeminski had a pistol?
No.
You don't get to shoot someone else. You don't get to shoot someone else because someone else has
No.
a gun, right?
No.
But you told the crowd he had a gun, didn't you?
That's what I said.
And that wasn't true. Mr. Rosenbaum never had a gun, right?
He didn't have a gun.
Now can we please play exhibit number 3 at the 1 hour, 17 minute, and 10 second mark?
He should have said he didn't know. He didn't remember. Well, you're supposed to tell the truth, so I mean, strategically, if he would have accidentally forgot saying any of that, it probably would have helped him a little bit. Well, while we're waiting on these guys, you guys are more than welcome to subscribe or follow on whichever platform you're currently watching, and make sure you hit that like button so we can fill the chat up and everybody can see how the trial's going. We have around another hour or so of this, depending on how things go. I have a feeling we're going to hear the prosecutor get yelled at a couple more times by the judge, And they'll most likely wrap this up today.
This is an excerpt from the Gage Grosskreutz Facebook live stream that night.
What are we going to do the poll about?
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody? Who shot?
Pause. You told Mr. Grosskreutz you were going to the police, right?
Yes.
And then you said, I didn't shoot anyone, right?
I can't really make out what the last part of the words were saying.
Do you remember what you said?
I remember saying, I think I said I had to.
Let's play that back 10 seconds and play it again, please.
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody? Who shot? Who shot?
Pause. Pause. Aren't your exact words, I'm going to the police, I did not shoot anyone?
That's what I remember from that night, but watching that, it sounds like I said I didn't.
That, again, was not true. You just had shot someone, correct?
I did.
Why didn't you tell the truth?
I was being chased by a mob, and I don't really remember that interaction very well.
Let's play Exhibit 5, please. This is the BG on the scene video. Go ahead. Pause. Now, we've heard a lot of testimony about this person who comes up behind you with something and hits you in the head. We've heard about Anthony Huber's first approach to you with his skateboard, correct?
Yes.
You testified that after a few more feet you felt lightheaded and you stumbled. That's what you told when your attorney was asking you questions, correct?
Yes.
No one knocked you to the ground. You lost your own balance, correct?
I was hit to the point to where I stumbled.
You said in response to your attorney's questions that you stumbled because you were lightheaded. Do you remember telling us that?
From getting hit, yes.
You were lightheaded because you had been running and you were being chased. That was why you were lightheaded, right?
That and being hit, yes.
Let's continue. Pause.
One problem solved.
Who comes at you and jumps towards you and attempts to kick you, correct?
He does kick me, yes.
And you fire 2 shots directly at him with your AR-15, correct?
Yes.
You intended to hit him with those bullets, correct?
I intended for him. Yes.
At that close range, it's a miracle that you missed, right?
I don't know.
You intended to kill him with those shots, didn't you?
No.
Did you even care whether or not those 2 rounds were going to kill him?
I didn't want to have to kill anybody that night.
In this moment, you're making a deliberate decision to pull the trigger twice, correct?
Yes.
That wasn't an accident. That was your conscious decision, wasn't it?
Yes.
And you're firing an AR-15 at close range to this individual, correct?
Yes.
And you knew full well that if you hit him with one or both of those bullets, it could kill him, right?
There's that possibility.
If you hit him with one of those, wouldn't you agree it's a pretty strong likelihood you're going to kill him?
I don't know if
Did that even factor into your mind at that point? Did you even care whether you were going to kill him or not?
I didn't want to have to kill anybody. I was being attacked. That's why I shot him. Well, shot at him.
You shot at him with the intent of hitting him and killing him, correct?
I didn't want to kill anybody.
Then why are you shooting at someone with an AR-15 at close range if you don't want to kill him?
Because he's attacking me. And he's stomping my face in. Jumping and kicking my face in.
That you didn't see any weapons on that person, did you?
No.
You didn't see a gun.
No.
You didn't see a knife.
No.
You didn't see a bat or a club.
No.
You didn't see a chain.
No.
All he uses is 1 foot, correct?
Yes.